we're not that far away, depending on Festa's situation, but we're definitely not that far away from Joe Ryan, Lopez, Ober, Zebby, Simeon Woods Richardson, Mick Abel, and Taj Bradley. And that's seven starting pitchers. If Festa returns, without any speed bumps
Right.
here in a week or week and a half, maybe, let's say, that's eight starters.
Right.
And there are a lot of ways you can kind of do that. I mean, if you were really wanting to get kind of creative in a season that is already lost, you could just put them in kind of a 4-day situation, which the Twins have been doing with, guys like Travis Adams and Pearson Ole at AAA. You just pair each of them with one other guy,
Yeah.
and they all pitch every 4 games, and they all pitch like 3 or 4 innings, and then when they're done with their 3 or 4 innings, the guy they're paired with comes in and takes over the game, and maybe you can finish the game with two pitchers, or at least get to the seventh or the eighth inning, certainly with two pitchers. I think if there might be a chance they would do that if it was just like the Mick Abels and the Bradleys
Right. That's
and the
just exactly
Festas.
what I was thinking, right?
But
They're
here's
not
the
going to
thing.
F around with Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, and Pablo Lopez in that
Exactly.
situation because that's the sort of thing that if any of them gets hurt, then that immediately becomes that which you blame.
Right. And
Right?
also, like, why do you want to mess with a great Joe Ryan season and have him do something that he's never going to
Right.
do before or after? Like, you want him to pitch normally. You want Lopez to come back and try to throw 5+ innings. You want Bailey Ober to finish on a high note, et cetera, et cetera. But you could do something where those three guys pitch kind of normally, and then you fill the other two spots with some
Right.
sort of piggyback situation and work from there. Or the alternative there is you could go to a 6-man rotation, although that doesn't totally solve it either with 8 guys or 7 guys. You could go with 6-man rotation, which then gives guys like Lopez and Ryan some extra time between starts, which I don't think is a bad idea given the nature of the season. Like I'm not trying to squeeze every outing out of or every
Sure.
inning out of these guys at that point. Or you could just flat out move a couple of these guys to the bullpen, whether that means multi-inning, 1 inning, and it doesn't have to be
Right.
some long-term, okay, you're a reliever now, but it could be a way to manage, let's say, David Festa's workload, work him back in slowly, and also get a look at, well, what does he look like if he's only throwing 25 pitches at a time instead of 75 at a time? So I'm curious about that. I mean, it's also possible one or two guys get hurt or something like that. I mean, these are starting pitchers. They do get hurt, and it's a moot point. But that is one thing to watch maybe a week from now or a week and a half from now as what they kind of choose to do with all these starting pitchers.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there thinking, yeah, but what about like, aren't you going to leave yourself short of the bullpen if you've got basically eight starting pitchers doing
Yeah.
that? And one thing they've got working for them is that in September they get to call up an additional pitcher. So that would mean, so even if you do have somehow work, so those 8 guys into the rotation, you do have 6 guys that you can still have in the bullpen to sort of eat up some innings. And if you end up, as you said, I kind of like the idea of let's have Lopez and Ryan be, regular starters and occasionally lean into the bullpen a little bit, and the other 6 end up each with a piggyback situation on there. I also wouldn't just be shocked if they just say, I don't know why we are doing this with Bailey Ober. Let's get him,
Right.
to get some rest. But I think, listen, I, I understand wanting to make sure that you get Joe Ryan through a year, especially because he hasn't been through a year, and stayed healthy and so on. You want to make sure you get his workload up there and you see what he can do in August and September, or basically September at this point. But the priority to me is to see the other 5 guys, right? The Festa and Simeon Woods Richardson. I'm not even necessarily sure I need to see that much from Simeon Woods Richardson to kind of know where he is at or what he's at. But I think after this, I do. Simeon Woods Richardson, Festa, Matthews, Abel, Bradley. Like those ones I want to see pitching in meaningful, meaning semi-meaningful games for the Twins here in September to get some idea of what we're looking at, what the initial ranking is going into next
Right.
spring training in terms of which ones we're kind of planning on leaning into, or even if we want to follow your sort of theory on what is going to happen, like if we end up trading away a Lopez or a Ryan, do we have enough
Yeah,
arms
except
to
functionally, you
complete it?
can't just shut down a healthy Joe Ryan. You're not going to be able to do that, so that doesn't matter. Like
No, I
I
agree.
agree with you in
Right.
theory, but it's not like you can say you're done, Joe. Like, you think
No,
he's
of
going to
course not.
react well to that? By the way,
Of course not.
you think the players' union's going to react well
No,
to that
yeah,
as he
of course
enters
not.
arbitration? So
No,
yeah,
and
I mean,
I'm not suggesting they will shut him down. I do want to see him. I'm just saying the priority for me is
right.
the other stuff. So
Yeah, we Abel and Bradley, we broke down their debuts on the Patreon. Neither were good.
no,
I think there were some things to like from both, from a stuff standpoint. From a, Bradley bounced back after a horrible couple innings and actually
yeah,
pitched pretty well for 3 innings. But I mean, look, they both had rough debuts. Alan Roden hit 150 and is now out for the season with a thumb surgery. And James Outman, the fourth guy that they got in the trades that they've called up, is hitting, I don't know, 172 or something like that. It hasn't been real first impression wise. It hasn't exactly blown people away, the guys they've gotten the trades. But I do get the sense, like you said, I mean, they want to see Abel and Bradley too. And
of
I don't
course.
think either of them have some huge workload where you'd be like, oh, they only have two more starts to make. I think you're going to want these guys
Right.
to try to go at least 4 or 5 innings every turn through the rotation here to evaluate, because it's not that this is going to tell you, these next 4 or 5 weeks, they're going to make a handful of starts, everyone, if they stay in the rotation. That's not going to tell you anything about, like, oh, do we think this guy's a future all-star, or have we given up on him? That's not even the equation. But it will tell you, like, can Mick Abel be in the starting rotation
Right.
next opening day? Can
Right.
Taj Bradley be the fourth starter or the third starter next opening day? And if I'm right about their likelihood of trading veteran starters at this point, which I personally think that's where this is headed, but we'll see. Then that becomes even more important, because then you have 8 that we talked about, but if you trade 1 or 2 of the veterans,
Right.
then you have 6, and as we've seen this year, 6 starters isn't even that much depth. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not, it can go from a lot of depth to not that much depth, particularly when you're potentially trading away the best, most qualified, most veteran, most experienced guys. So, and which remains to be seen.
And welcome to the end of this video. There's lots more. For another, just click on one of these boxes.
Or click on this circle in the middle to subscribe to all of our Twins Talk.
Thank you.
Gleeman